Hello, everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So, today we will again discuss two articles. The first one is from the Hindu newspaper, which is titled as Poverty in India is on the Rise Again. Now, as in yesterday's discussion, also, we discussed about the recently released periodic labor force survey. So, this article is also somewhat on the same lines, but talks into more precise about that how much the poverty or the statistics for poverty have changed and specifically have risen in the country. The second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as A Just Energy Transition. So this talks about that how India can efficiently move to the renewable sources of energy and make the best out of it. So how that can be done shall be discussed in this article. So I'm the one who is presenting this newspaper analysis to you all. My name is Sheva Khan. I am also a law graduate and had completed my law degree from Uttaranchal University with a gold medal in my batch. I have also been a national debater and a public speaker. And here at LawSikho, I'm working as the manager for current affairs vertical. If you wish to connect with me or find me, you can find me on my Twitter as well as LinkedIn handles. Both the links are available in the description box below. So let's see what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Which of the following committees enforces code of conduct of the members of the parliament? Your options are Ethics Committee, House Committee, Committee of Privileges, or Ad hoc Committee. If you know the answer, you can put it down in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. What should India do to get its energy transition right? Discuss. So let's start a discussion for the first article of the day, which talks about the poverty on the rise again in India. So as I just mentioned that recently itself, the PLFS, that is the Periodic Labor Force Survey data, has been released and it has actually shown a rise in the number of the poor in the country. Also, for prelims point of view, please remember that the Periodic Labor Force Survey is released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So the Consumption Expenditure Survey 2017-18 data was not made public by the Government of India, and a new Consumption Expenditure Survey is likely to be conducted in 21 and 22. Now, many a times, now here to be precise, it cannot really be said as to what were the reasons that the Consumption Expenditure Survey data was not made public. But generally what happens is that whenever there is any kind of data that can be, taken as a bit controversial or that can actually create any kind of havoc amongst the people, so many a times the government does not, by giving some other kinds of reasons, does not release that kind of data so that the people are not really aware of what is happening. But to be very honest on this, it actually is a hampering on the right of the information, or that is right to information, which is a fundamental right of the individuals. And that is why, if at all it is not great exigency, then definitely the public data should be made available. Now, when we talk about the Consumption Expenditure Survey, as the name itself is suggesting, so basically this is a survey or a calculation which tries to analyze as to how much have the people spent or how much were they able to make the expenditure on various kinds of consumptions. Now, when we talk about the consumption, it can be for food, for electricity, petrol, so on and so forth. So this actually gives the power of the consumers to buy something. And this ultimately decides also the size and maybe at times the prosperity of the economy as well. Also remember that the Consumption Expenditure Survey also is prepared and released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So now a new CES is likely to be conducted in the year 2021 and 22. So according to the survey, which was released according to PLFS as well, and this whatever data is available, let's understand that what is the trend of poverty in India as of now. So from 1973 to 2012, the poverty numbers kept decreasing. So in 73 and 74, there were 54.9% people who were under the poverty. 1983 and 84, they were 44%, and subsequently they reduced to 36%, and finally in 2004-5 it was to 27.5% as per the Lakdawala poverty line, which is lower than the Tendulkar poverty line. Now for these, I will give you a crisp idea. So basically there have been various committees which have been set up from time to time in order to decide that what should be the criteria for choosing the poor of the country. So for that purpose, we have had many committees, be it the Lakdawala committee, Tendulkar committee, YK Alag committee, etc. So currently, in the situation of 2004 and 5, 27.5% people of the country, they fell under the poverty line if the methods of the Lakdawala poverty line were used, which is actually lower than the Tendulkar poverty line. So here there was change in the methodology also that took place in 2011 when the national poverty line was raised in accordance with the recommendation of an expert group, so chaired by Suresh Tendulkar. So what happened was that during the times of 2004 and 5, now since maybe we can be, we can celebrate the fact that we had only 27.5% of the people under the poverty line, but what actually happened was that this used the criteria of the Lakdawala poverty line. Whereas in subsequent years, and specifically in 2011, the national poverty line was changed and it was made in accordance with the recommendation which was made by the Tendulkar committee. And finally, the Tendulkar poverty line was accepted as the bare minimum. So if we talk about the resultant data, so there has been a rise in the incidence of poverty since 2011-12, and this has actually happened for the first time since 2011 and 12. Now, when we talk about the incidence of poverty, this simply means the number of people who are poor as compared to the total population of the country in terms and expressed in terms of percentage. So definitely we can see through the data that there has been a rise in the incidence of poverty for the first time after 2011 and 12. And there has been it has been consistent with the leaked data. So as I mentioned that the data was not made public, but as per whatever sources are available, the rural consumption in 2012 and 18 fell by 8%, whereas the urban consumption rose by 2% only. So which means that the rural people amount for greater number of poor in the country. And that is why more emphasis should be laid over there. And also the consumption in the urban areas also needs to be increased. So here are two striking factors that we need to pay our attention upon. Firstly, that it is for the first time in India that the absolute number of poor have seen an increase. That was between 2012-13 and 19-20. So as we just mentioned that between this time, it has been for the first time that the incidence of poverty has increased. And the second striking fact is that it is for the first time again, ever between 2004 and 5 and 11 and 12, that the number of poor fell by 133 million. Now here, this is, one thing that we need to pay attention, that the time period of 2004-5 to 11-12, that was a time when actually we could see that the poverty was actually reducing in the country. But yet again, one of the reasons or the major reasons could be that at this particular time period, we were considering the recommendations or the poverty line as per the Lakdawala committee. And that actually has different parameters to assign the poverty. And after 2011, when we can see that the poverty or the number of poor actually increased in the society, so that at a particular time, now we have been considering the Tendulkar poverty line. So yes, these could be the reasons, but yet again, we need to be sure of the fact that the data is released very consistently and that the right steps are taken in the correct direction, be it in the times of government schemes, policies, etc. as well. So let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about a just energy transition. So the energy transitions are gaining momentum worldwide, including in India. Now here, I would like to give you a very simple example as to what do we mean by energy transition. Let's say that we have a car, like I own a car, for example, and till date, I was running my car, let's say, on petrol. But now I decide that the petrol actually, is causing a lot on my pocket as well. It causes a lot of pollution and I cannot make a lot out of when I'm running my vehicle on petrol. So what I decide is that I should get rid of the petrol system and I should get CNG system gotten infused into my car. So this also is a typical example of energy transition, which means that when we try to make change in the kind of energy or the resources of energy that we are making use of, this process is called as the energy transition. Now, of course, when we talk about one single vehicle, one single car, bus, or even an auto rickshaw, so that transition is definitely very, very, very easy because that amounts for only one particular vehicle. But just consider that if a nation at large, the entire nation in totality, would want to shift its energy supplies or its energy preferences, so do you not think that it would be really a very hefty and tedious task? Yes, of course. So this exactly we are talking about in this article, that what methods should we use as a nation, and India as a nation as a whole, that the energy transition that we are trying to move from non-renewable to more renewable sources of energy, like we are moving to the solar panels, wind energy, hydroelectric energy, etc. So that how can we do it in the best way and in the smoothest way possible? So this article says that the energy transitions are gaining momentum worldwide, including in India. Yes, of course. So 90% of the new electricity generation capacity globally comes from renewables, which definitely is a very, very good thing to know about, because here we, like for the electricity generation, we are like for the 90% globally, we are depending on the renewable sources of energy, be it the solar power, be it the hydroelectric power, thermal power, etc. So let's understand that what can be done in case of India to give it a justified energy transition in the best way possible. So firstly, to achieve the goals of creating new jobs, growth and sustainability at the same time, we should do it by putting the people at the center, which also many times is called as the anthropocentric approach. Now, when we talk about the anthropocentric approach, definitely there will be some views that would be against this. But please mind over here that this article is not saying that we should take human and only human to be the supreme one or the supreme leader in the society. Rather, we should see that whatever we are doing should ultimately be beneficial to the humankind. Yes, of course, it should be in parity and in balance with the environmental values as well. But yes, this article says that we should be putting people at the center. Now, by putting people at the center, by this we should mean that at one side where we are shifting to the new regime of energy, or we are making this energy transmission, we should make sure that we have enough jobs available for the people, so that this does not make us to go to a jobless growth. Now, for a jobless growth, I will give you an example that earlier, when the industries were highly dependent upon the labor, like for example the manual labor, so we used to have industries that used to be labor intensive, which means that they required a lot of labor. In such situation, the employment rate was high, which means that there were less number of people that were unemployed. But as and when we move towards the services sector, the IT sector, etc., so what happened was that definitely India saw a rise in the economy. The technological advancement became better. But what happened was that because not many people were skilled to take up the jobs in the services sector, this definitely in terms of economy gave us the growth. But did we really have jobs in hands? No. So that actually situation is called as that of the jobless growth. Now, exactly same thing has been used in this article also, wherein we say that at one side, it is really good that we are moving towards more and better the renewable sources of energy. But at the same time, we should make sure that the jobs also are available for the people, so that we have enough things for the people to do in the entire electricity or entire energy culture. So the deployment of 450 gigawatt of renewables would employ more than 500,000 workers, which is very, very huge. And thus, India will need jobs for the coal miners eventually in the coming times as well. And finally, if we talk about the sustainability, so the energy subsidies must be rationalized and directed towards those who need them the most. Yes, of course. Like for example, when we talked about the Ujjwala scheme, which actually was targeting to give the LPG cylinders by giving subsidies. So what happened was that the people, the rural areas, specifically it was done for the women in the rural areas, that actually because of the fire fuel or the fuel wood that they used to get so many asthmatic and other kinds of respiratory problems. So to save them from this and to get cleaner fuel for the environment as well, the Ujjwala scheme was brought. So that is why we should make sure that the people who are at the biggest need or the most dire need for any particular resource are the ones also who are getting these supplies in the first place. So that is why we should be able to sustain the gains of schemes like Saubhagya as well as Ujjwala. Then the fiscal resources should be invested in clean energy solutions, especially in the underdeveloped and marginalized communities. Like for example, there are areas in Rajasthan, instead, we can say that the whole of Rajasthan basically is, blessed with, the solar power. So if at all we can make some kind of better investment over there, and we can give the solar power grids to the farmers, the small farmers over there, small vendors and everyone. So definitely they can make good use of it. And thus the fiscal resources can be better used in these areas. So if we talk about the energy transition in India, so we are among the top 5 countries of the world in terms of renewable power capacity. We also have plans to increase renewable energy capacity to 450 gigawatt by 2030. And In the global clean energy leader, we through initiatives such as the International Solar Alliance. So basically, this was India. And this was an Indian initiative which was taken at the General Assembly, wherein we at India have the headquarters for the International Solar Alliance, wherein we want to bring together a lot of countries so that they can be connected with each other and they all can make use through the use of the power grids through the solar panels. And if we talk more about the just transition, so we should focus on how clean energy can support rural livelihood and increase communities' resilience after the COVID-19 specifically. We should also share the clean energy technologies with the MSMEs. We should promote the policies ensuring gender parity in workforce, incorporate energy efficiency and green construction methods in the various infrastructural projects. And finally, we should be able to engage the youth, as they are the ones who are the creators and innovators of the coming times. And definitely we should bring them in the loop so that they understand what all the are the requirements of the economy as well as the ecology, and thus they can give the best of their input. So this was all for the day. And here is a very good announcement for you all, though we have said it before as well, that you can catch our daily newspaper analysis on the podcast as well. So if at all you do not have the time to go through the YouTube and visit the entire slides and everything, so even while you're traveling, you are walking or something, you can definitely go through this. So you can find our daily newspaper analysis by the very same name, that is Daily Newspaper Analysis by LawSikho, on channels for Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, as well as Anchor. So make sure that you are subscribing to that channel as well, and you're listening to our voices and the analysis there too. Also, if you wish to download the PDF of these slides, you can be a participant on our Telegram channel. The link to this channel is in the description box below, or you can simply scan this QR code that you can see on your screens right now. And also do not forget to follow us on our official Instagram channels for Judiciary, CLAT prep, as well as UGC Net for amazing and brimming content over there for your exam prep if you're preparing for any of these exams. So stay tuned with LawSikho, give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much.